Pressing plan another pay me no mind sports and entertainment video. Got to jump right into some bite down boxing talk. Uh, got a chance to check out yesterday's light heavyweight bout between undefeated UK light heavyweight Joshua Buatsi against Daniel Dos Santos out of France. And I haven't checked out the entire card. I had some issues with DAZN yesterday and was doing some stuff. But hell of a knockout for Buatsi, who I like a lot of things about Buatsi. Especially he's just a great he just brings a different skill set, different level of athleticism. He has good power. Seems to live a disciplined life. I like that he switched over to Virgil Hunter, to be concerned about what he's doing with his career, how he's trying to mature as a fighter and whatnot. So I'm seeing a lot of good things. It's just the question will be, does it translate to success in the ring and success amongst the elite, of light heavyweight. But definitely, you saw immediately what sets him apart. His movement for the light heavyweight division in comparison to the champions in a Bivol or a Joe Smith Jr. now, and then as well as Artur Beterbiev, he moves differently than all of those guys. His movements are really crisp, really sharp, pretty light on his feet. Like I said, the power is there. I thought he was a little thin for the division a couple fights ago, but I do see that he has some pretty thick legs, to give him that. Because you look at him against a guy like Beterbiev, even Joe Smith Jr. is a pretty stout light heavyweight and whatnot. And I was like, how is he going to stand in here with some of these guys who look so much, thicker and bigger than him? But he does have some pretty thick legs on him and whatnot. But again, it's that great movement. Looks like he could be in and out. A lot of the other guys, man, they just kind of move in straight lines. You saw Bivol a couple of weeks ago against Craig Richards. The same thing. He gets into the pocket the same way. Doesn't get to too many angles. We know that Beterbiev just mauls guys pretty much. And then Joe Smith Jr., they keep trying to talk about his boxing. I don't really credit him as a great boxer. He boxes enough to try to set up his power, but it's all definitely not anything beyond two-dimensional, in my opinion. But Buatsi here in this fight in particular, Dos Santos was tall, rangy. He had 8 knockouts and 15 wins. Us here in the States, we don't always credit, these European fighters. France is definitely not a hotbed, not considered a hotbed for, world-class talent and whatnot. So, these guys got to show us something. They have to prove us something. But you can see right away he was on his heels against Buatsi. But credit to him, though, man. While he did fight cautiously, and while he did recognize, this guy is something different for me, this is a level that I haven't seen, he tried to stand in at times here and there and figure out some ways, to have some success in spots. But again, that movement wouldn't allow him to be comfortable. So he fought unsettled. But he landed a couple good left hands. He landed a good uppercut. There were some things that Buatsi kind of ran into, maybe growing a little impatient. When you got a guy who's fighting on the move like that so much, and it forces you to go and change up how you want to attack, maybe that's just something that, that Buatsi had to learn on the fly, which is something he said after the fight. He did get the knockdown in the first or second round. I thought Dos Santos handled that pretty well and getting up and reestablishing himself in the fight. He did, like I said, he didn't have a whole lot going for him. You know, he landed, like I said, he landed some stuff as Buatsi was running in a little, you know, a little recklessly. And then I thought the one good thing you saw in the moment where he was being pressed and he tripped, or he reached around and lifted up Buatsi's left leg and dumped him on his back. And Buatsi got up and, you know, was pretty firm with him. I like how he kept his cool. Even when they came back together, when the action resumed, I think that was in the third round. You know, Buatsi didn't. That's the difference in a fighter, in a professional fighter. He didn't let his emotions get in the way of the task at hand and just continue with his work. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a like a systematic approach to taking care of Dos Santos, to see kind of what the improvements are under Hunter, and more of a game plan kind of be exhibited or whatnot. I didn't really see that happen. But like I said, Dos Santos was fighting very cautiously. Didn't want to commit to anything. Didn't want to sit down. Didn't want to get stationary for any long point. So I can see that kind of throwing things off to a degree. We get into the fourth round, and that's where we see a great moment from Buatsi, who takes the instruction from Virgil Hunter. Great cornering by Hunter, who told him, you know, I want you to look here and go here. I want you to look here and go there, and mix in those feints. And that overhand right that he caught Dos Santos with, you know, I love the way that he set that up. You know, he kind of used Dos Santos' nervousness against him, you know, and when you have a guy who's just kind of balling up whenever you go to attack him, or you go to press him, it's a chance that something big lands, and that's what happened. He caught him flush on the chin. He was out before he went down. You could see that Buatsi, he landed that second right hand as he was going down. His foot was caught up underneath him. He was out, and Buatsi was like, "Oh shit, I didn't really hurt this cat." So the referee didn't even bother counting doing the 10 count. It was clear that Dos Santos was out of there. Kind of a weird scene afterwards with him crying to his team, Dos Santos, and crying, you know, sharing a conversation with Virgil Hunter and whatnot. They mentioned, you know, he was an undefeated fighter. It was a big moment for him and what he was trying to do. Any career aspirations that he may have had, all of that went out the window with that loss. Solid outing for Buatsi, man. I like the dude. He seems to be a pretty cerebral dude in the ring. Are some things that he could work on. I would love to see him against Craig Richards, who was the guy who fought, who's kind of the domestic level guy who fought Bivol a couple of weeks ago. And like Eddie Hearn said, and even the commentator said, like, Richards did pretty well in that fight against a world-class fighter. If he would have had a little bit more confidence in the second half of that fight, it seems like Richards could have really gave himself a legitimate shot to win that fight. But he kind of didn't trust what he was able to do, kind of didn't trust what his eyes were telling him. And you're thinking, you know, this guy right here is a world champion, a world-class fighter, a world champion. I don't know. I'm uncomfortable. And he really could have pressed a little bit more, because Bivol really didn't change anything up the whole fight. So I don't know if they'll rush for a guy like Craig Richards, another taller fighter. But I would think that would be an excellent fight. Eddie Hearn mentioned after the fight about possibly bringing Buatsi over to the States in July. I think that would be a good look for Buatsi, especially if you plan on, matching him in the future with any of the world champions. It'd be excellent to get more exposure to him, get him away or get him above. What's up, Sheldon Holmes, man? Good morning. It'd be a good experience or a good exposure to get him over here and get him in front of the American audience. You know, if you truly think the guy is a world-class operator, I think that would be dope. He came over for the the Madison Square Garden fight with Joshua and Ruiz. He had a pretty good performance that night. But again, you don't want to rush it too much. I think Virgil Hunter's timetable of 14, 18 months or 20 months, he said like 2 years or a year and a half, that Buatsi would be ready for the world class level. I think that's a pretty fair estimation. I think, again, get him in there with a Craig Richards. I don't know if Eleider Alvarez is retired. You know, that's another guy that you could get him in there against possibly. And Alvarez is kind of really deteriorated at this point. So I think that might not be a halfway bad matchup for Buatsi. Light heavyweight is not a really deep division, so it's kind of hard to get some. And that's another thing. Even as Zurdo Ramirez, not that he should face him, but all the other light heavyweights kind of just move in straight lines. Very methodical fighters, all get into the pocket the same way. That's what Buatsi has going for him is his movement, his athleticism, his footwork and whatnot, and then to have the power to go with that. So I'm very interested to see what the future holds for Buatsi in that division. Again, I'm not the biggest Joe Smith Jr. fan. I don't take much away from Joe Smith. I'm not trying to take anything away from Joe Smith Jr., but I've heard some of the commentary talk about him as a boxer and an all-around fighter. I disagree with that. That's really not his calling card. And then you just saw a super middleweight in Maxime Vlasov just have a really good night against Joe Smith Jr., who you would have thought Joe Smith would have been able to bully or bull and get the guy out of there, and that didn't happen that entire fight. I thought Vlasov really exposed Joe Smith. Well, he didn't expose him. That's what Joe Smith is. Top Rank has done a great job, and that's, what is it, CES Management or something, CES Boxing or whatever. They've done an excellent job in guiding Joe Smith Jr. and getting their fighter to a world title and all of that. But Joe Smith Jr. just, outside of his punch, his right hand, he's not bringing a whole lot to the table. Tough as hell, good size, good length and all of that, but just kind of limited in my opinion. Again, it's going to come down to Beterbiev and Bivol. I mean, Bivol can fight. He can box. Maybe he should be down at super middleweight, possibly. He's obviously trying to angle himself for a Canelo Alvarez fight. But I think there's some work in there for Buatsi once he's ready. I do think his personality seems to mesh well with Virgil Hunter. Virgil Hunter doesn't, his kind of cerebral approach to boxing doesn't always work. With a lot of the different fighters that I've seen him corner. But it seems like they're on the same page. Again, I thought it was excellent that Buatsi was able to take the information that Hunter knows what he's talking about. He sees it all. I'm just sometimes his approach doesn't work for some of these fighters that I've seen him with. It's been some ugly moments for a handful of Hunter's guys where I was kind of disappointed in what I heard or saw from Hunter when the shit hit the fan for a particular fighter. But that's neither here nor there. Again, with Buatsi coming over here and working in the States and willing to make the sacrifice to get away from home, get away from his family, work on his game. Obviously, he's going to be patterning some stuff from a fighter like Andre Ward, and seeing if he can incorporate any of Ward's stuff into his game, and see if he can make some noise, and become a world champion. So that's pretty much for Buatsi. I thought it was a pretty good outing for him. Looking forward to see what's next. I think it would be excellent if they could get him back in the ring in July and continue to work on the momentum that they're building, as Eddie Hearn mentioned. We just have to see where it happens. I might come back on and talk about the card last night on Showtime with the 3 fights with Martinez and Burgos, as well as damn, I can't even think of the second one. Daniel Roman and Espinosa. I thought that was a really good bounce back fight for Roman. I'm a pretty big fan of him. I thought it was good. Maybe he just needed to fight a right-hander for a change, but he looked consistently good in that fight, in my opinion, against Espinosa. And then in the main event, Neary just I never really, since Neary kind of really popped on the scene. I think even Cool Boy Steph mentioned it. You know, Neary might need to be back down at 118. He really doesn't impress me at super bantamweight whatsoever. And he looked, I thought he looked really bad last night. All of the swinging and missing that he did, I think that contributed to him running out of gas in the way that he did. And when he took that body shot, the left uppercut, hybrid uppercut to the upper part of his abdomen, I just thought he just lost his fight, his will to compete, in my opinion. But I might come back and talk about that later. Anyway, bite down boxing. Don't let them count you out. Pay me no mind. Sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.